Welcome to Direct Approach, a bi-weekly DSN podcast hosted by Wayne Moorhead, filled with timely insights, fresh perspectives, and actionable takeaways from your direct selling executive peers to help you fuel the growth and evolution of your business. In this episode, Wayne has a riveting and unfiltered discussion with Shawn Meaike, the trailblazing founder and CEO of Family First Life, one of the fastest growing independent marketing organizations specializing in turnkey insurance solutions, including mortgage protection, final expense, and retirement planning. Shawn's remarkable story of catapulting his business in just 10 years from an $11 million debut year to a staggering 30,000 agents and $750 million in annual revenue last year alone in just 2023. This is rooted in the art of autonomy, innovation, and unconventional scaling strategies. Shawn's insights are a game changer for leaders navigating authentic growth. But before we begin, this episode is sponsored by Exego. Exego was started by a team of experts that shared a single vision: to overturn the archaic, restrictive model of housing data and create an entirely new kind of platform from the ground up. From your first dollar to your billionth and beyond, Exego's platform scales in lockstep with your global growth, aspirations, and vision. With clients in 120 countries, supporting 40 currencies and 30 languages, plus over 200 open APIs and SDKs, they empower an existing tech team to control their own best-in-class solution vision. To connect and learn more, visit exego.com. That is EXIGO.com. Now let's welcome your host, Wayne Moorhead, and our guest, founder and CEO of Family First Life, Shawn Meaike.
Hello and welcome to another episode of DSN's Direct Approach podcast. I am your host, Wayne Moorhead, and today's guest is a Renaissance man. He has had incredible success across so many areas, including founder, keynote speaker, best-selling author, podcast host, and so much more. He's also built one of the fastest growing companies in the space. I'm excited to welcome Shawn Meaike, founder and CEO of Family First Life. Shawn, thank you so much for being on Direct Approach.
Thanks for having me, man. It's an honor. I appreciate you guys.
Yeah, the honor's ours. Again, we've heard so much about you. You have built just a giant of a company that's growing so rapidly, and we're excited to hear more about that story and to dig in there. But can we start off by hearing just a little bit about the path that led you into the independent marketing space?
Yeah, it's funny because I look back on my, everything starts with what I remember, right? Like the rest of us, my childhood. And, my mother raised me working 3 jobs. I wasn't raised where she was talking about being independent or entrepreneurial, or my mom just told me to get a good job. And I watched my mom struggle, and my life changed when I was about 9 or 10. And I got hit by a truck when I was 9. And I dislocated my hip, broke my arm, my leg, my heart stopped. I lived, and my mother actually came to the scene, and she had a panic attack. And anyway, that was at the same time my mother was getting her real estate license. And my mom always worked jobs. I'm 51, so I watched my mom be talked to in a way that even at 8 or 9 knew it wasn't respectful. It wasn't like over the top of it wasn't respectful. And I felt like she was very much being treated less than she was. My mom was young mom, didn't go to college, and she got a real estate license. And I'll tell you, Wayne, it was probably the proudest I ever was for her. I'm always proud of her, but for her, like I was like, man, I remember like she went and got a nice outfit. We really didn't have any money, me, her, my brother. And she got a license. And I remember our neighbors would all tell her how stupid an idea that was, right? And my mom didn't have the wherewithal to know that our neighbors were stupid. Like, we was all broke. Like, why are our neighbors giving us advice? Like, we're all broke. We all live in the same place. And after a few short months, my mom gave up on that. And I remember I said to her, why did you, what was the deal, Ma? Like, you was working. And she said, it's just not as easy as you think it is. It's really hard to go out on your own. And I'm thinking, no, I've met people that are on their own. They're not that smart. They're not special. And one day, and actually the funny thing is I went to college to play baseball. I didn't go to college. I had zero desire to study. when I was there. I kept that consistent lack of desire to study while I was there. But after a short period of time, I realized that I needed to get a degree in something. And I didn't like being a business major. That's what I was early on, because the business professors, they weren't in business. And I, growing up, learned early on that people would use you to get what they wanted. So I was like, I'm going to do the same thing, which is part of growing up in dysfunction. You become a survivor, and you're like, okay, you're going to use me because I'm a good athlete. I'm going to use you because you have a high business acumen. So the guys that coached a lot of my travel teams, they were successful. They were wealthy. To me, they were obnoxiously rich. Like, they had nice houses and cars and traveled and boats. And so I just started like interviewing them. And then when I was in college, I was like, man, I learned a lot more when I was 14, 15, 16 than I'm learning in college. I became a social work major, went and became a child protective services worker. I worked with abused and neglected children in the state of Connecticut for 14 years. I got my real estate license, and I did very well. And once I got into real estate, I was like, wow. And I was used to competing as an athlete. And I was like, where are all the competitive people? Like, so I did very well real fast. And that led me into my entrepreneurial, selling career and business building career, but it started in real estate.
That's incredible. It is amazing how we are all shaped by those events early on, the lessons that we learn, the people that we interact with, things that we see people do, challenges that they have. I go back in my mind to the comment that your mother made of, it is tough to go out on your own. And that's something that I've always had to remind myself, being in the direct selling space, working with an independent sales force, is try to put myself in their shoes. And for me, I'm super introverted. It's not easy for me to even have, general conversations with people. And how can we help our sales force, our field, get wins really quickly? How can we train them? How can we get them up to speed so that they have the confidence, the tools they need to move forward? I think that's really an incredible lesson. And also all those people that you came in touch with after, and the impact and the things you learned, both positive and negative, from them, I know really, really influenced you. And one of the reasons that I've been so excited to chat with you is that not only have you found success across many verticals in many areas, but especially within entrepreneurship, you've built and exited multiple successful companies. So you really have that deep understanding, the dynamics and the challenges that are associated with growing and scaling a company. So I'm kind of excited to dig in on this. And you started kind of touching on this a little bit, but Family First Life has reached several $100 million. I think we may go into that a little bit deeper here. And you founded that 10 years ago. But it is incredible, for me to kind of look at that and go, all of that, this incredible company came about because you saw a better way and you made a very difficult decision to go out on your own and do things your way. And so I'd love to get your thoughts on what it was like to make that decision to say, look, I'm seeing a way that this can be done different, can be done better, and how you dealt with the inevitable fear that comes with going out on your own all by yourself.
Yeah, well, people ask me, I was at a meeting last night with an insurance carrier, and they said, how were you led to the business, the insurance business? I said, accidentally. I did very, very well in real estate, and I learned in real estate, I want to get paid in every level. So like, I started flipping houses, and I want to get my real estate license, and I'm like, I'm gonna flip houses. Then I'm like, why am I going to pay a contractor? I'll become the contractor too. Then why am I going to pay a property manager? I'll be the property manager as well. And then I'm like, hell, eventually I should get my mortgage license. Like I wanted to, because I also thought I would do a better job for the client. And also I didn't want to give my money away. Like, I'm the one working. Why do I want to hand some guy that comes in once a month on an open house, 3% of a sale? So for me, I was actually looking to buy another property. And a guy named Jim said to me, and it's kind of funny because he said to me, are you keeping your options open to making some extra money outside of what you're currently doing now? And I had heard that line 150 times in 15 years. And what I always said to people was, how much money are you making in what you're pitching me? That's all I ever said. How much are you making? Show me how much you're making. And then I'm always looking to make extra money. And you know what's funny about Jim? He looked at me and he said, I'll be honest with you, I'm not making any money. I said, what do you mean? He goes, I've had my insurance license for a few months. I'm really excited about it, but I've not made any sales. I don't want to lie to you. I'm not making any money. And I said, you know what, dude? Give me the information. I'll get my life insurance license. And he was very frozen. And I said, because everybody else has lied to me about that. Thank you. Hey, be transparent. I love this transparency. So I got my insurance license because he was a broker on a house I was buying. And then I called him up. I got my license in a week and a half, very quick process. And I said, hey, man, what do I do now? And he said, well, you need leads. I said, well, where do I get them? This is like 15 years ago. So it wasn't as automated. It was like, meet me at the house you were buying from my guy, and I'll bring you a folder of leads. So I drive back down the house. He gives me the leads. Like, I can remember like it was yesterday. I took my stack of leads. I was in front of him. And I said, give me one. I'm going to call it. And he said, well, you've not been trained yet. I go, they filled out a lead because they want life insurance. What the hell training I need? Give me the lead. I'll call them up. So I called him up in front of him. I was like, hey, Tom, Shawn, boom, went through all that. And the guy's like, yeah, man, I'll meet you tomorrow, like 9:00. And I was like, all right, cool. So I said, dude, how much will they pay me? He goes, well, no, hold on. Why did you do that? I go, how do you mean, how'd I do it? I called him up and told him I was coming to their house. That's how you sell leads. So I got into the business then with another company. I still had my job as a social worker. I kept my job as a social worker for all these years, even though I was doing well in real estate. I loved being a social worker. But I thought to myself, you know what? I'm going to give this insurance deal like a real shot. My real estate deals were running themselves. Life was good. And I worked for another guy for 5 years. And I learned a lot about the business. It was a very straight up networking, MLM structure, opportunity meetings, showing the plans. Dude, I've shown the plan inside of 1,000 living rooms in the first couple of years. Every Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, I'm drawing a thing out. And I was so excited about helping people get free. And after all those years, I'm like, hey, man, I'm the number one income earner at the company. I'm the number one sales guy and the number one manager. But I'm not like, I want a different deal. Like I want to figure out how I can be compensated better. And his answer was pretty short and sweet. He said, I'm not going to negotiate any deal with you. And I was like, cool, I have a negotiation. I quit. So I quit and I launched my own company. And listen, man, I mean, first of all, when you work with somebody else and then you're big and you quit, you can be pretty much guaranteed some kind of litigation will follow you. It's the way it works. They either threaten to sue you or they sue you or both. And, but I got to be honest with you, Wayne, and I don't say this with my mother raised me, and I don't apologize for my faith. My mother raised me to not fear anything but God. Even though she was fearful of almost everything, I really took that message. So for me, it was like, I remember somebody said to me, what do you think the odds are it's going to work? And I was like, I don't know, 20%, 20-80. It's like that old movie Armageddon when they're getting ready to jump off. And the guy's like, what are the odds? He's like, I don't know, 50-50, 30-70. It was definitely invigorating. But what I was honestly, Wayne, afraid of wasn't me or for me. All these men and women started joining the company. And we went from a company of me, my guy that was a staff member, Mike, and probably a dozen agents to like 700-800 agents wanting to work with us immediately. No infrastructure, no leads, really nothing. Just an excitable dream and a vision for where we can make the industry different. So I was afraid to let them down, to be honest with you. I think, money is, and I mean this to my core, money's never motivated me. I want to do well for my kids. I don't want to make decisions based on money, but the things I've accumulated, it was serving other people. So when we started the company, December 12, 2013, I had one insurance carrier. That was it. So if you understand our distribution, all these IMOs, NMOs, FMOs, they have 20, 30. Because of my old deal I worked at, they had all the carriers. So like I was like out into the wild, wild west. I'm like, dude, we have anybody we can get. I had one insurance carrier that they didn't have. And they said to me, we're going to give you a contract, but you have to do 10 million your first year. We're going to terminate you. And I was like, all right, no pressure, like 10 million. So I sarcastically said 10 million by myself or the entire company. And I'll never forget, the guy looked at me and he goes, I'm serious. I said, me too. If you tell me, I'm like, I'll do. Our first year we did $11 million. Come to find out, they were not very honest because they thought if you did 2 or 3 million your first year, it'd be amazing. So I was like, man, we did 11. He's like, if you had done 3, we wouldn't have terminated you. And this past year, our 10th year, we did just around 750 million in paid premium as a company, from 30 agents to 30,000, 6,000 every month that are getting paid minimally. And we built the company. I met a guy who helped mentor me a long time ago. And I said, you built a lot of successful companies. What is like the overriding rule? And he said, every company I built, I've taken this three-legged stool approach. It's got to be great for my client or my consumer, and it's got to be great for my employee or my agent or my independent contractor or my consultant, and it can't harm the company. And I said, well, that's simple, right? And he goes, yeah, but what'll happen is most people will lose sight of that. It's going to be what's great for the company, and then whatever is left, the scraps they can have. So I think Family First Life, we launched it where we wanted to be a great agent experience. And the problem with a lot of the direct selling stuff I've seen, in my opinion, was I've been part of other deals. And what bothered me is folks would work a little bit and they would just quit and then expect that because Wayne hired Shawn, Wayne gets to get rich forever. And I'm like, there's the psychology of the sale. There's also the psychology of an override or a renewal or a residual. You better provide me value if you want to override me. So that was how I got into the Family First. It was a grind. First 3-4 years, I was paying myself enough to live on it, put every dollar back in the company. One point, I remember my attorney said, they're going to subpoena your tax returns. I was like, good. You should subpoena them and show them to everybody. Like, I have nothing to hide. Just take my social security number off, because the people that work with me will love me even more than they do now. And yes, I've built it into an obnoxious EBITDA, and it's been great. But it was a grind, man. It was really exciting, though, because you don't know what's going to happen day to day. And there's a dozen times I can tell you that we were supposed to be done and out of business, but we just kept moving. And we've built one heck of a distribution. We'll do $1 billion this year in 2024. We will do $1 billion. We can do a podcast a year from now. You can ask me again if we hit it. And the answer is going to be yes. But it's been, a ride from COVID to this. It's been quite a journey. And so I'm just very honored to be part of it.
That is an incredibly inspiring genesis story of the company, and there's so much in there. I was frantically taking notes here as you were talking, because there's a few things I want to circle back on. One, going back to Jim's question to you around, are you ready? And I think there's an important lesson there, just timing. You said you've heard that line, 100 times, 1,000 times before from so many people, and maybe even multiple times from Jim. But it's important to go back to people, because timing's not always right. So don't give up. As a sales leader, it's important to go back and continually kind of revisit people that said no to you, and it might not have just been a good time. They might not have been ready to hear the message. Another thing I took away is Jim being candid and just being honest with you, and that immediately developing trust, where from then on, he was going to shoot straight with you.
Absolutely.
And he could have danced around it. He could have tried to, appear more successful. And with you, again, you would have seen right through that. So that would have fallen flat. So I think another great message is just start where you're at. Be honest with people. You don't have to be an expert. You don't have to have achieved all the success just to get going and start. Another thing that was really impactful for me was listening to you in your conversation with your boss, understanding the impact that you were having and understanding your worth. And being ready to kind of walk if that wasn't recognized and wasn't honored and treated appropriately. So that's a big lesson for me. And then I think the last thing, and then I'll kind of take a breath here for a second, but that your fear wasn't around you and you losing your success or what you had accumulated, but that you were really focused on other people and afraid to let them down. And not only does that speak a lot about you as a person and your leadership style, but that's ultimately that's the type of leader that's going to do anything to make other people have success. And that's the type of leader that I want to, and other people always want to follow. Incredible insights there. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
One thing I want to ask you about is product. So in your space, you're in a highly competitive category. It's very crowded. There's lots of people. So as you were building a company, especially in those early days, how did you approach differentiation and making sure that you could stand out from the competition?
The nice thing, what attracted me to the business really was the fact that we were focused on middle American market, right? I mean, a lot of my life goes back to how I was raised. Nobody knocked on my mom's apartment door and talked to us about life insurance. My uncles, my grandparents, everybody died, but no life insurance. So for me, Wayne, the product had to make a lot of sense. What actually attracted me into the life insurance space, to be honest with you, was the fact that in 2008, what Jim also, after and he was candid. He was great. And you did a great job summarizing all that. I said, give me your favorite product. And he said, there's a term product with return of premium. And I said, explain that to me. He's like, they pay $100 a month, $1,200 a year, $12,000 every 10, $36,000 in 30 years. They live, they get all their money back, 100% of it back. And that made sense to me. That was like, okay, I want people to get life insurance. A lot of people struggle with their mortality. Like, do they want to talk about mortality? Do I want to talk about what it's going to look like when I'm not here? And, I had that same mentor that said to me about three-legged stool approach said, I called him probably a year and a half ago. And I said, hey, I'm sending my daughter a message. I send her a message every single day. She's 22, every day. And we talk plenty, but every morning when I get up, it's one of the first things I do. He said, you should start thinking about doing that every other day or maybe once a week. And I said, what? He said, someday you won't be here. And she won't have to look at her phone ever. And it's stuff that you don't want to hear, but it's really, it's really powerful. So, I think for me, getting that feedback from Jim, I was like, okay, return of premium makes sense. And then living benefits. So I really, Wayne, tried to find the products that made the most sense and then take that, because where a lot of sales reps that in my experience fail is paralysis by analysis. Somebody trains them and gives them all these different. If it was you, Wayne, I'd be like, when you meet with people between these ages and decent health, this is the best product. When you meet with them, and I walk you through everything. And then when you go, what about this guy? I go, there's nothing wrong with that, but you need to learn like a couple products so you can be successful, because confused people do nothing. So if you're you're trying to get somebody to buy life insurance, so if they already want to buy, and then you're offering them 5 different things. When I got it's funny, right after Jim and I had met, about a week later, I go to this couple's house and I knock on the door. And she opens her super nice and she says, hey, because everything I did was face-to-face forever prior to COVID. All of our sales were face-to-face. And we still do about 25, 30% face-to-face, the rest of them are virtual. And I knock on the door and she very nicely says, hey, we're all set. Vincent from your office is here. He's taking care of our life insurance. And I'm thinking, I don't know Vincent. I don't have an office. Vincent's a liar. So I said, I don't know Vincent. She goes, what do you mean? He says he works with you. We told him we had an appointment with you. He said he works with you. He said, don't worry about it. I was like, oh, this is going to be great. And I was like, well, no, Vincent doesn't work with me. I wanted to are you sure Vincent's an insurance agent? Because I'm like, now I'm upset. So I go in the house, go down to the living room. There's Vincent with the husband. Husband's in like a lazy boy recliner. Vincent's got all these things pulled out and portfolios and presentations. And he's like, hey, man, nice to meet you. I told him I already took care of it. I said, well, Vincent, we've never met. So I would appreciate you not lying that we've never met. I said, sir, I don't know Vincent. I'm an independent agent. Don't know who Vincent is. He doesn't work in my office. But now that Vincent brought me into this, what we're going to do, here's what we're going to do. It's the best line in sales of all time. Here's what we're going to do. I said, here's what we're going to do, sir. Let Vincent finish whatever he's doing. I'm going to sit here and just hang out. As soon as he's done, I'll show you what I got. And sir, for your family, take the best product. Whatever fits your budget, product. He goes, that makes sense to me. After about 35 minutes, I said, sir, can I be honest with you and your wife? I said, first of all, man, can you come over here? Because you sitting in the living room or in the kitchen when we're in the living room and you'll be the one getting the check. That was weird. So Vincent doesn't work with me. I would have trained him better. I do all this, exactly what I said. So why don't you have a seat? I include her. I said, what was he talking about? What was that product? And he started stumbling around. And I said, you filled out a form that your $230,000 mortgage needs to be paid in the event of your death because you're the only one that works and you have 7 children and your wife stays at home, right? He goes, yes. I said, so what was he just offering you? He goes, I don't know. He was talking about the ratings of the carriers. I don't even know what he was saying. I said, I know. I can tell you what he's trying to do. He's trying not to sell you the product you asked for because he wants to make more money on a different product. Right, Vincent? Exactly what I did. Right, Vincent? And now he's getting angry, right? And I'm thinking, I'm already mad, Wayne, because he lied. So, so I'm already upset. So I said, here's what we're going to do. I read him the product. He buys the product. We get it, whole thing. And Vincent stands up and looks at them and he says, I can't believe you're going to do this. I drove an hour and a half to come here. And I said, then Vincent, you should get better at your job. At which time he left, because what's he going to say? Because now I'm angry enough, thinking you're going to need living benefits. You keep lying to people. And don't lie about me. That's one thing. I'm straight up my clients. It's funny. It really taught, and I always share that story early on because A, it's entertaining, and B, you don't need to dazzle people with your knowledge. So in a life insurance, Wayne, and I know some people get really excited about their products, it's actuarial science. Mortality is mortality. this underwriter has the same charts. They all have, it's science. So the product specs, you got actuarial, you got the financial guys that run, like they're not all that different. There's some nuances, but for the most part, it's just science. If this one, when people say to me, well, this condition, nobody wants to cover it. That means that people shouldn't want that condition. It means that I'm not trying to be mean. Like when COVID hit, one of the things I said was, guys, I'm not a big politics are politics. Like everybody's got their own opinion. I'm not afraid to talk about anything with people, but like people get really upset. What I knew is we kept selling life insurance and people were not declined, so I was just like, we can keep going meeting people. Like they'll tell us what the deal is. It's their deal. And so from a product standpoint, I was much more focused on getting the agent force to understand the best couple options and then empowering them to go ahead and make a sale. And I think a lot of folks, and Vincent's one of those guys. I'm sure he's not in insurance. I'm sure he's not in direct selling. I'm sure and he shouldn't be. He's younger than me, so he's doing something else. If he's watching this, Vincent, good luck, and I'm sorry about the appointment. I hope you got better. You know what I mean? Like, I don't tell you, but I do know that if I hadn't gone to their home, they would not have gotten life insurance. If that guy had died in the next 30 years and left that wife and those kids without a way to pay that house off, they'd be homeless. So that's when I'm talking about my product, I'm selling that to people before everything else. So, because again, term insurance, return of premium, whole life, index universal life, I'm not securities licensed, nor do I want to be. I don't sell any variable products. I don't even have a license to let you lose any money. We protect your retirement from fixed index annuities if you want to do that. And, I'll tell you, I tell my kids all the time, I want to be in this field and I want to meet with people, and I never, ever want to avoid a phone call or a contact with anybody where I'm thinking, oh man, they're going to ask me this and it didn't go their way. If I'm honest with them, if I'm direct and I treat them the way I treat my own family, I hold my head high. Clients call me now 15 years later. I may not remember them, but I have no problem answering the phone. So I was trying to sell that over, it's, real estate, cars. I can buy a car for 40 grand. You can buy one for 80. My car could be better. Life insurance doesn't work that way. It's just numbers, man. Just science.
Oh, I love that. A couple of great things that really jumped out to me. One, just knowing, and especially at the early stage of a company, at the early stage of a salesperson's career life cycle, the importance of focus. Don't overwhelm them with product. Don't overwhelm them with the fine print and at least in direct selling, there's such an emphasis at times, especially in the nutritional category, put on all the science and here's all these incredible ingredients. And it can just be overwhelming to the new salesperson, but really keeping things simple, especially early on, simple can equal speed. And so it's going to allow you and your sales force to run really quickly. When there's too many products in a portfolio, that's one of the huge challenges, I think, for a lot of the companies in direct selling and some of the ones I've been at, is that paradox of choice. Our customer just does not know how to navigate that portfolio. And when they're confused, they're not going to make any choice. But I think it speaks a lot, again, to your company, and that you chose to differentiate really around the customer and putting them first, making sure they're taken care of, providing value, and bringing the humanity, into the process. Again, I think people will buy from companies like that and run through brick walls to do business with companies like that, that really take care of the customer, that set expectations and meet them so much in there. And you also mentioned about where you found success from a customer standpoint. And the same applies also from the sales force, from the field, and attracting that. You've found incredible success with a really focused sales force. And I'm curious if you can share a little bit about having that clarity around who the customer is, but also the type of sales agent that you want as part of your organization.
It's funny, when in 2008, when I started, the very first ad I ran, 2008, I was still running ads in the newspaper and on Craigslist, said, now hiring athletic or military experience required. That was all it said. And I got flooded with people. I heard a lot of good people from that. And to your point you made earlier, I didn't know, people say, how do you recruit quality over quantity? Dude, I recruited people for who they knew. They went and did something that was a plus. I was honest with them. I was direct. I didn't BS them at all. I told them what the opportunity was about. But I don't have a magic wand. I can't tell you just because everybody has. Well, if they're more like this, they're going to do this. I'm like, that's not true. I'm just telling you, I've been doing this 15 years. But what I can tell you from an agent standpoint is it's accountability, right? If you're going to be in direct sales, if you're going to do what we're doing, if you want to be independent, if you lack accountability, you will never have success until you're accountable. I don't care what you're doing. You talk about the supplement, like I take glutathione, right? Why do I take that? People try to sell me stuff all the time. The guy said to me, you made a great point. He said, you should take this. I said, why? And he said, I take it. It's done these 3 things for me. Here's an article if you want to read more about it. I'm like, you're in good shape. I don't know if you know what you're talking about. I'll take it. And I've been taking it now for however long. Like, that's how he sold me. And other people tried to sell me, but they threw up all over me, and I got confused. And I'm like, dude, I'm kind of busy. I don't really want to. I just, So for us, I talk about accountability, I talk about people's ability to stand up for other people. I think that's big for me. We used to always say to people when we're interviewing them, we want people that will intervene when people are in danger. You don't need to be a character from a movie scene, but you need to care enough about other people where you call 911, you call somebody else, you get involved, you need to stand up for other people. And I think part of the expectation comes with an expectation I have for myself and other people. I've seen a lot of companies in my space cap and die, and they do it because they run out of credit. And it's not credit borrowing power. It's because the men and women at the top of the company want to take credit for everything. And when I bring people in, first of all, I'm not going to take credit for your success. So when people tell me, I really appreciate everything you've done, I'm like, dude, I built a system that you took advantage of. There's other people that didn't take advantage of it. Because if I take responsibility and I take credit for your success, then I have to take responsibility and credit for your failure. And I'm not going to do that. I'm not taking credit for either one of them. And that's what accountability is. But people get a big way to kill a big business is have a big ego. Way to kill a small business is have a big ego. And for me, what we all do, right, is we have products that we believe in or we wouldn't be selling them. We move them to consumers, then we teach other people to move them. We sell them, we teach people to sell them, then we teach people to sell them. That's really what we do. If any of us wake up and go, like, I'm the anointed one for doing that, I would check. That's a dangerous way to live. First of all, you're not. I'm not. I've worked really hard in insurance. I do put people first, and I live with a lot of humility. And I want to see people win. And those things I would agree to. So I think that's putting a lot of people at ease because their experience. I remember the very first event we did. The people that were the event planners said, "Where are the VIP seats?" And I said, "What do you mean?" They said the VIP seats. Now, again, I'm just telling you the way I did it, right? And I said, well, I don't know who the very important people are. Like, we just got started. Like, does Tom a very important person because he started day one or because Tom's dad worked here? Like, I don't know what that means. At my old company where I got insurance, I didn't like people telling me. I went to an event and the guy was like, you can't sit there. And I was like, why not? And he's like, they're reserved. I'm like, for who? He's like, well, me. I'm like, but I sell more than you. He's like, I've been here 15 years. I go, so I sell recruit more than you. And you get a better seat than me. Who's in charge? I said, go find a guy that's in charge. I was already sitting here. You're not going to move me out of my seat. Like, what world are we living in here? And I think that I always wanted to have a blue collar approach to everything, man. If you want to learn how to sell, I want to show you. You want to learn how to recruit, I'd show you. You got somebody on the phone, you want me to talk to them, I'll do it. And that's how we did our meetings. We do these massive meetings, thousands of people. I'd be like, bring me the phone. I'll call and book appointments right now. Like, give me the microphone. We'll put them on speakerphone. Like, I'm not going to do anything or ask you to do anything I'm not willing to do. But we do expect accountability. And life insurance is a different business. I know we all have, it's advanced pay. They're like unsecured loans. Wayne, if you go write $10,000, the insurance carrier will advance you like 75% of that, even though they've not paid their premiums for an entire year yet, which means we have to be really good at who we hire. Accountability has to be key because there's loss prevention in every business. People are like, man, this happened to me in my business. I'm like, I don't care what business you're in. They wouldn't have created loss prevention if they weren't about everybody has loss. That's the way it works. You can own Tom's food stand and nobody steals from you. Own a big Walmart, a couple $1 million will walk out the door every other day. But that's the way it works, man. You just do the best you can. So accountability has been key. And also, A lot of independent people I've seen fail because they're so good at identifying problems. They're not good at identifying solutions, but they're such good problem identifiers. And my deal with the company has been, you can bring any problem to me that you have if you have a solution. But if you don't, if you say there's no solution to what I'm talking about, then why are we talking about the problem? We're huge on accountability, and we do things early on to test people's accountability. Work ethic's going to come and go. And the last thing is really trying to teach people, when I look at how awesome capitalism is, I get to look at why it works. And why do so many people, I don't think they sabotage their own success. I think we make that up. Like, I don't think they wake up one day and go like, oh my God, my mom was messed up and my dad wasn't nice to me. Let me destroy my success. I just think they're comfortable with like living barely above check to check. And I think they're like, dude, I really don't want to do the work. I don't have they have no why or no North Star, nothing driving them. So I think we also try to pull that out in people. I want people to see in them what I see in them. I want them to see in them what people saw in me when I was young. Because the people that believed in me when I was young, truly believed in me, that's what kept me moving. And that's what allowed me to get there. So I always want to return the favor to people. But we're looking for men and women that are accountable. They don't need any experience. And also people that understand that this is like an amazing, amazing industry to find a way to serve people and then go make money.
We have some big news for the upcoming DSN 20th anniversary event taking place April 2nd through April 4th at the Irving Convention Center in Irving, Texas. At the last DSU, our AI-focused content was noted as game-changing and top-ranked by so many attendees, and the session ended up being standing room only. So for this event, we are doubling down with 2 bonus AI opportunities on Tuesday evening, April 2nd from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Central Time. The AI workshop is backed by popular demand and focused on sales, marketing, and training, hosted by Blake Mallon. This workshop is ideal for CSOs, CMOs, training, and creative team members. The AI roundtable session is focused on operations, finance, and IT, and hosted by Heather Chastain. This session is ideal for all COOs, CTOs, CIOs, CEOs, and operational team members. Plus, a special guest appearance at each AI session from renowned AI expert and founder and CEO of Trevally, Brandon White. Brandon is a repeated top-ranked DSU presenter, and he will deliver insights into each session and provide more powerful AI content on the main stage during DSU. Both AI sessions take place Tuesday, April 2nd from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. at the Irving Convention Center. The AI sessions are exclusive for DSU registered attendees and complimentary as part of your DSU registration. You can register now for free at dsnevents.com. Share and register your additional team members to this free educational event to ensure all of your AI bases are covered, and so much more at DSN's 20th anniversary spring event. Make plans now to arrive Tuesday, April 2nd to attend the welcome reception and networking opportunity at 5 p.m. and stay for the AI Insights 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Then we'll see everyone in the main ballroom Wednesday morning for day 1 of DSU. Visit dsnevents.com for more details and to register.
So these elements like accountability, being solution-oriented, these are ingredients for being successful, not just at your company, but in other companies as well. One of the big challenges or levers for growth in managing an independent sales force, an independent marketing force, is that so many of the people that join don't have previous sales experience. They don't know how to share the product. Some do, some don't. So how do you go about teaching these things like accountability, like being solution oriented? How do you approach really growing the field to grow your business?
I think you need to develop leaders, and I think you can only do so much on your own, right? And I think that's the rub for people. Like, I was really big, Wayne, early on allowing people to build and run their own business. run their own hierarchy. I was going to be there when you fell down. I was going to be there when you bumped your knee. But I can make a phone call and talk to your agents, but I want you to do it. When we ran meetings, getting people up in front, whoever's speaking at the meeting gets the most out of it, then the new people, and then everybody else. But the guy or girl on stage is getting the most out of it because they're speaking. So I'm like, why are we taking the same 3 people all the time who are already really good and letting them speak all the time and getting the most out of it? We have all these other amazing people that we need to build up. So I think we don't have enough people to help them scale this thing. So because for me, Wayne, I can run as many meetings as I want, get on Zooms, get on webinars, but I can only have so much contact with people. So I was always developing that next level of leadership. And now, like when you look at the company our size, I couldn't even tell you how many people where I could go like, you know what, if I don't show up to the meeting, there's another 1,000 people that can handle it, provide the training, provide the accountability. So I worked really hard to develop those folks and help them develop other people because, listen, people have stuff, and it's teaching them to be okay. It's teaching them what's going to hold them back. It's teaching them how to have those hard conversations with their family, right? Like and for me, I don't ever underestimate that relationship, their spouse, but we can help empower them to understand who they are and what they can actually achieve, because what hurts most people, they're worried about what everybody else is thinking. And I tell people in meetings all the time, I've never one time, like, I like you, Wayne, a lot. I love Stool. You're all great people. And I mean that to my core. But there's no part of me, and I'm sure everybody that watches this is amazing, but there's like 0% of me that's like, I wonder what they're going to think. I'm just going to do the best I can. Now, if I don't do the best I can, I'm like, oh man, this is what we teach people a lot. We hammer into them. Why are you worried and looking sideways about what people think? What does it matter? Go to any meeting, Wayne, with 100 people and go, hey, any of you got any questions? And if it's not seasoned people that are like already kind of moved past this, nobody raise their hand. They have plenty of questions. You could come there and be the greatest at 4 things they all want to be great at. You get up and go, guys, got any questions? They're like, I do have a question, but I don't know if it's a good question. And I don't know. And they're not worried about you because you seem sincere, but they're worried about what their peers think. So we do a lot to get them to overcome, like when they get on the phone and make dials to make appointments. They're not afraid of the client. They're afraid of other people hearing them fail. So we teach them, we create this culture, and we embrace the ups and downs. We embrace them falling on their face. We let them know we're going to be. And the only failure is quitting. Some people are like, I'm failing. No, the only failure is quitting. You're experiencing the journey of being an entrepreneur. And I remember a guy told me when I was like 13 years old, I said, why doesn't everybody do it? Like, you're very successful. I was asking those questions at 13. I can tell you the guy, he's now passed away, who I asked. And he said, never forget, he looked down at me and he said, if it was easy, everybody would do it, kid. It's not. And I never forgot that. I was like, all right, cool. But is it, he's like, anybody could do it, but it ain't easy. And people like easy. And we try to teach them to embrace that road less traveled. And we do, try to pour into them. And a lot of that comes from, you're great too. I'm not better than you. You're not better than me. I might want more. And the last thing I'll say to that is, it's okay for them to want more than their peers and their family members and their friends. It's okay. You're not a better person, but it's okay to want more. I've been sober 23 years. And I tell people all the time, they say, what was the hardest part about getting sober? Well, the hardest thing, Wayne, was the amount of people that ostracized me the first year. And I really couldn't, because I'm like, and I wasn't preaching to anybody. I wasn't like going, hey, Wayne, I literally was like, hey, guys, I have a problem. I get in trouble a lot. I do stupid stuff when I'm drinking and partying. Like, I never preached to anybody. But I realized my sobriety challenged there, because, listen, I didn't hang out with saints. I mean, these guys were hardcore partiers. But I had to kind of come to terms with the fact that me living differently bothered them, even though I wasn't bringing it up ever. And I'm very open about stuff. We teach our people to be the same way. If you and I start talking, Wayne, and you share things about yourself with me, that makes me trust you more. Jim said, I'm not making any money. Then proceeded to talk about his financial situation in general. I didn't think, I was like, I like this dude's vulnerability. Like, because that's how I am. When I started, I went to my very first meeting. The guy sat us down, our upline, sat us down and said, How many of you are doing well? I had just driven an Econoline van from Norwich, Connecticut to Burlington, North Carolina with all these guys. I watched them not be able to buy anything in the gas station, complain about who was chipping in for gas. And the guy said, and they're all like, we're doing well. I said, dude, I'm broke. Like, compared to them, I'm not broke. I have money, but I want to do better. Like, I'm not living the way I want to live. I said, by the way, these guys couldn't even buy a hot dog in a convenience store. They're broke too. They're just legitimately broke. And I've always like, be upfront with where you're at. Like you said, start where you are, and we also teach people to love themselves, man. Who cares what happened yesterday or last week or last month? Like, you're where you are today, dude. And here are 3 things you've overcome in your life. Tell people, write down 3 things that you can't believe you overcome in your life, which are different than everybody else's. And when you're having a tough day, remember you overcame those 3 things. Why the heck can't you overcome everything else?
Interesting. I do think I love that story. It is one of the promises, I think, in direct selling, indirect marketing, working with these independent sales forces, is the promise. It's not just, hey, we're going to help you out financially, but we're going to help you be better. We're going to help you do better. We're going to help you learn and grow. And I do think that's also from, my experience in direct selling, that is one of the differentiators. That is one of the things that we offer that traditional retailers or a D2C company is never going to be able to provide. So we need to be able to focus and kind of double down on those things that do make us so different. You talked about in the early days, kind of doing everything yourself and wearing every hat. And I know that is a hard thing to do, to learn, not to learn, but to get to the point where you realize to scale the business, you can't do everything yourself. You can't be everything. That you've got to start bringing on a team and kind of trusting other people and training them up. So I'm curious how you thought about and approached building out your internal leadership team. How did you pace that? How did you sequence that? What were those first positions where you're like, yeah, I've got to have this person in here tomorrow helping grow this business?
Well, it's funny. I was about 4 or 5 years into, probably 4 years into it. And time-wise, I just started to realize that we were scaling so fast that there were things I just didn't know. From a technology standpoint, everything we had was imploding. Our CRM was imploding, everything, because you go from 500 people to 20,000. You go from 1,000 clients to 1 million clients. We just can't. And so I remember I sat down one night and I was like, all right, do I have the right people? Like, I could put my hand on this, right? I remember doing this. I was like, do I have the right people? Like, I need some C-level people. Do I have a guy or girl that can operate in the capacity of a chief operating officer? Like, do I have one? We're not a publicly traded Fortune 500 company, but heck, we're doing a lot of volume. It's like, do I have one? And I found I had one guy internally that I knew could do some amazing things. So I had 2 people internally that I was able to kind of move up in those positions. And they embraced it. They were unbelievable. And then for the first time I went outside and I'm like, man, I got to get a CTO. I need a technology guy. I just have to. And God is great. I'm at a fundraiser and this guy, I know nobody there. And I'm like, they invite me, I walk over this table. There's a guy there. We start talking. He's like, man, I've been with Ivan. He's showing me all his patents. And I looked at him and I said, are you an employee there? And he said, yeah. I said, how much did they pay you for the patents? And he's like, excuse me? And I said, well, and I'm totally curious. People ask you questions for 2 reasons, right? They want the information. They're trying to mess with you. I was not trying to mess with you. I want to know, this is so new to me. And I'm a big question asker. What did you get? This one sold to Google for 100 million. What did you get? And he's like, I really can't tell you. And I'm like, you didn't get none, huh? And so I just stopped and I said, hey, listen, I need some help. Weirdly enough, that's what I'm looking for. I don't know you, don't know me. And that was my first big hire. You don't hire those guys and girls for 50 grand, 100 grand. Like that was a big hire for me. And so it was really, it put somebody in charge that was handling all of the operations day to day that I'd already known. Then I took somebody else that was doing the, would kind of operate in he wasn't an official CFO, but with good accountants, he handled that part. And then a technology guy. And then the next thing I did was I thought, all right, with all these amazing managers we have, do I have some people I could delegate some of the things to that I don't really have the time to do? Like the insurance carrier relationships. can I teach somebody to manage those things so I don't have to be in 27 different places every month? So I really started to go down the things that I thought I could. And what I learned was, while I understood the job really well, I always said I could teach people to do my job. That was one of the things I'm like, I could teach you to run the company. You may not like it, but I can teach you. And I started to realize that, wow, I have a real company because it can actually function without me doing all these things. And that's when I felt really proud. Like I was delegating more, but I'm like, we have a real deal here. Like that it can move with or without Shawn Meaike. Yes, there's things I do that people like, and I go to the meeting. And yes, if I get up on stage, I can get you jacked up because I really do love people. I do believe in them, and that's all great. But you know what? There are other people that can do that too. So I really started there, and then that actually led me to meet my exit. Right? Like I wasn't looking for any of that. I just, once I put all those positions in place, I'm like, man, we need a massive tech overhaul, because what that guy did for me was bring me back some information that was really hard to digest. Like I was either going to reach in to my own pocket and throw $5, $6, $7, $8 million in the company and build the structure we needed to. And I had never really thought about taking on any kind of partner, but I'm like, okay, let's see what's out there in the world. And I met with a lot of private equity companies, and I'd been through this before, and I'd not been through an insurance. I've been through real estate. I sold I did well there at a waste management company I ran. I sold that to another waste management company. That's kind of the way it works over there. So big boys come in and just buy you up, which is fine. It's all we want. I want to build it, have an exit. And, but in life insurance, I had never done that. And then I actually had a guy I had a relationship with previously, a guy named Bob, who's been in the insurance business. I'm a huge relationship guy. Like the guy that sued me and I sued him back, I talked to him. Like I'm a relationship guy. Like business is business. No matter what you've done, I've always tried to, I don't think I've burnt a lot of bridges unless like there's a reason to blow that thing up because you're coming at us to try to harm us. I still might repair it in 5 years and talk to you again. But right now I got to blow that thing up so you don't come get me or get us or come at us. And so for me, that led me to our partnership, man. I flew to Dallas, Texas, talked to a company that was acquiring a lot of companies in our space. And I knew how big we were. But what I asked myself, Wayne, was I was never, because some people do an exit because they want to take chips off the table. I had already taken a lot of chips off the table. And the problem for me is what excites me is the chips on the table. The juice is what excites me. But what started to make me nervous was now I'm responsible for all these people. I don't ever want to underdeliver to them. I don't. And I didn't launch this thing with the capacity to do billions of dollars in premium either. Like we're going to have a massive overhaul. So I was having to go in one direction or another. So we ended up doing our partnership with Integrity Marketing Group and 4 years ago on October 31st of 19. It was the best thing that we could ever done for the company, because then we had this infusion of tech and all that, and it went crazy. And I feel great because people say to me, was it the best decision for you? I said, well, we grew like 700% the next couple of years. So you can make an argument that, well, had we not done that, but because it was so good for everybody that works with us, our clients, our customers, our employees, our independent contractors, it was a great decision for me because of that. And listen, it's been very good. Financially, it's been great. But I think it's funny you asked that, because I started to put it in place and then still looked and thought, all right, now I'm at a crossroads I had not been at before. Real estate, when you accumulate what I accumulated property-wise, I built a really good property management company. I had a great legal team, great accountants. I didn't really we weren't managing anybody day to day. Property management company handled this, what we were doing on the residential construction side, the land development side, that was moving. So this was the first, I don't want to say real company, but yeah, man, like when I first heard, we're your C-level executives, I was like, what does that mean? That's when I knew we weren't, you know what I mean? And I've always been that way about stuff. First time I started talking to somebody, they asked me what my EBITDA was. I said, what does that mean? And I remember one of the guys, who was a private equity group out of Boston, and pulled me aside after. He said, you have a unique ability to be able to talk about all things you talk about, but also connect with people from all backgrounds. Like, I love that you asked that, because most people just nod their head and continue. I was like, I didn't know what EBITDA meant. I said, why don't y'all call it net income? Like, why do you like, that's a pretty cool fancy term. I get it, but I don't have the depreciation, amortization, all that. And we just kind of laughed. But, you know, I learned a lot along the way, and kind of to your point, I found the insurance business because the guy was vulnerable. And I've always wanted to stay vulnerable and transparent and direct with people and just be who I am. I want people to say, good, bad, or indifferent, he was who he is. And I think that makes me feel good. So that was how we started the structure. And then it morphed into the partnership and the acquisition.
Yeah, that's great. I love that. So you've got, you know, looking at this process, kind of the scaling, you've got, you know, the right idea, the right product, the right people in place. Then you start shifting into kind of the funding stage. And I've been at companies that have looked to both private and public markets to fund the growth. And to your point, I think it is so important to understand what your objective is. If it is, hey, I'm going to take something off the table. If it is to grow and scale. If it is, hey, we need the tech infrastructure in order to take these things to the next level, because that's really going to inform and dictate, I think, where you go. And I love that you had that relationship. I'm curious, you know, my experience in both, you know, transitioning to a public company or bringing on private equity, it's an amazing experience. There's so much good. It can also, it just changes the dynamic to some degree, where there is another seat at the table, essentially another voice in the room. I'm curious for someone else, another executive or CEO looking to potentially bring on funding, what was maybe the biggest lesson for you and all of that, or what has helped that be a successful relationship going forward?
Yeah, that's a great question. There was a couple things I looked at that I almost pulled the trigger on from PE standpoint. The reason I didn't, Wayne, was very simple. What I wanted was, as long as the company continued to scale, I wanted autonomy, as long as everything I was doing was, you know, within the bounds of what we're supposed to be doing, which is how I do business. So I wasn't worried about that. But I didn't want people to come in and change. I'd seen too many people do that, you know, and I told him, I said, dude, if you come in and you change everything, I'm going to buy the company back from you at X for 10 pennies in the dog. Like nobody wants that. Like if it's going really well. And when I made the decision I made with integrity, what was great about that was they said a couple things I really liked. Number one, the guys and girls that built the business within my system were able to do the same thing if they chose to. So we had a number of people that have done the exact same thing. They built a business inside the system, been able to have their own exit, which has been crazy. And the other thing they communicate to me, and it's been true to this day, is as long as what you're doing is working and you're continuing to have the growth, why would we ever, how would that make any sense for us? And again, I said, other companies at least were honest about the fact that they're like, well, we would want to do this, we want to do this, we want to change this. And it's like, but these are the fundamentals of the company. So you got to make sure you have the right fit. I mean, it's as close to a marriage as you're going to get. I mean, from a business standpoint, it's a marriage. I mean, you take somebody's money, there are expectations. You give up equity, there are expectations. And also with that structure, you may end up becoming an employee. And that's like, you just have to be okay. So for me, like, I knew that because when you articulated it, it was a tech. I needed a tech. I wanted to scale a company. When I looked at them and they had hundreds and hundreds of people from all these massive tech companies that were running their tech, I had me and my buddy from the fundraiser, and that was it. I knew we needed it. I knew for us to have a solid, we had built something where I wanted men and women to build for their families, maybe recruit their children in here. Like, I wanted to build this thing for a very, very long time. But I also had to know that, hey, my deal, like, I'm an employee now. And I'm okay with that. I think part of that is when people say, well, how isn't it hard when you go from being in charge to being an employee? It depends. I'm an employee where I get to run the company as long as it grows. And it does. So like, life is really good, but I'm also okay with that role. I never had a problem with my jobs, like, because I don't want anybody to tell me. When people say, like, I'm such a terrible employee. Dude, I was a pretty good employee if the things you did made sense. I worked at UPS. You told me to unload trucks. You paid me so much per hour. I did that. You told me to drive the truck, deliver the packages. I did that. State of Connecticut. Like, I was cool with all that, but you have to know yourself, man. Some people aren't. And if you to your core are like, dude, nobody can ever tell me what to do, then sell and get out. Like, sell, get your money, don't sign anything, don't agree. Like, that's your deal. I got to go. And in a service business like ours, that's a harder sell. I didn't create something. I didn't go, here, Wayne, I created this. I got a patent. I've licensed it. Here you go. You don't need me. and y'all can go ahead and sell it. Here's our structure. We have a service business that I help drive. So I think you do have to ask the right questions. I wanted to know what would happen to everybody else, how the company would be run, what your expectations of me would be. Like, I asked a lot of really good questions. And again, you got to pick the right people, because, on the day you close, it might be there's a courting process. I always tell people, like, you went through that. I have people that I had a buddy of mine that did a deal with a P, and he's a great guy and they're great. And he's like, well, it's just changed a lot. And I said, yeah, because they were trying to buy your business. They courted you, and now they got your business. And like, they want you to do these things differently, bud. And actually, it's now their business. And the way your deal is structured, it says that they run it, So they very much just let us run it. And it's been utopian from that perspective. Waste management, I just got the heck out. I mean, they were much bigger. They didn't need me for nothing. I was great. In real estate, they wanted me to stay in it. I didn't stay in at that point in time in my life, because I knew I wasn't in a place. I didn't want anybody to tell me what to do. And that's just where I was at that moment in my life. I was like, and they tried to get me to, ironically, they wanted me to buy that back at, 30 cents on the dollar. Years like they ran into the ground, literally, and it was like, no, I'm good. I'm doing a bunch of other things in my life. Y'all paid me, and, you should have kept me on and tried to induce me to stay on. And you got to be really careful. You're right. But you got to know you. So the last thing you want to do is agree to something in 6 months, be miserable about where you're at.
That is such great advice. That fit is so important. You're going to be dancing with that partner for quite a long time. So making sure that fit around even personalities, but objectives around how you do business and operate is so important. So as you mentioned, you're going to do upwards of $1 billion this year, hit 750 this last year, just incredible. And I'm curious, with all of that growth, what have you seen are kind of those key drivers that have really helped to fuel that growth? And it's important to understand that. And maybe what are some of the landmines that you were able to avoid, or I guess maybe unfortunately stepped on, but learned from, because growth can be incredible, but growth can kill a company at a pace like that. So what do you feel are the biggest drivers and lessons for you?
Man, I think the biggest driver was during that growth, we did take our eye off of what was important. And what I mean by that is I've always worked really hard because I have an addictive personality and I like to work. So in fairness, I have to, that's my disclaimer. I like to work anyway. I enjoy what I'm doing. I enjoy this business. I tell people I like real estate. I like waste management. I freaking love life insurance. I've done well. I love the concept. I love what it does for people. I love empowering people to sell. I love what they can make. That's great. But when we started scaling it at that rate, I mean, you look at what we did from 20 to 21, and it's like, we grew like 300%. Like, it's like, oh my God. But what happens is, if you don't stay locked in, because in our business, and I think a lot of direct selling, whatever you're doing today, you're not penalized right away for it. If you stop recruiting today, you're not penalized tomorrow. But in 90 days, it's going to be an ugly deal. If you start recruiting more than you ever have today, you won't see it tomorrow. But in 90 days, it's going to be a really, really beautiful picture to look at. A lot of folks, because it was growing so fast, took their foot off the gas completely. Some put the emergency brake on and parked the car. But we didn't. There was so much growth. It was just trying to figure out, but when I look back and I'm like, okay, these guys weren't working in the office anymore. And these guys weren't doing meetings anymore. And these guys literally just stopped recruiting. But we got head faked. And I think also for me, we had built such an amazing, you're independent, which is true. You're independent. It's a democracy until it's a bad situation. My mom would always say to me, it's a democracy until you and your brother are doing something that can harm you or somebody else. Then it's a dictatorship until I fix it. And I was like, all right. And I think we had a lot of that early on. Like, hey guys, we correct a lot of behavior. We're in it together. And I assumed wrongly, everybody would want to just continue to work really hard. And I think some people, you got to be careful, because that's what I tell people when they are acquiring businesses. I'm like, somebody asked me, what's the single biggest thing we need? My buddy launched, a deal they started acquiring 18 months ago. And I said, dude, I'm telling you, man, you're going to find a lot of people who, I don't care what you say, the minute they're paid, they're done. Even if their agreement says they're not, they've arrived. There's no fear of loss, right? And no fear of missing out. So, I really think that was a big landmine for us, because our middleman, all of our people always worked hard. And we don't need people to work 200 hours a week, but heck, you got to work 40. You got to work here. You got to work here, and I think what happened was you had people who are like, I've not gotten there yet. Why is this guy not and then the worst call I ever got in direct sales were people that would call me who weren't doing anything. And I was already doing well and want me to do more. When I got in part-time, I had my job. Had my job, still did real estate, and I was still making sales to the tune of $10,000 a week. But when Jim's upline, Jay, would call me and start what's your goal next week? I'm like, dude, how about you go to work? Stop calling me. You don't even work here. And Wayne, I realized my directness was an anomaly. Still around me, you can't say that. I'm like, he doesn't work. Why can't I say that? What are you talking about? And it had been nothing had he not called me, but you're calling me now. And what I realized was, oh, you need me to do something because you're not recruiting enough people. See, because direct deal is pretty simple. You sell the product, you got a big spread. You hire people direct, you got a big spread. Your width is your crazy profitability. You build organizations, you get your roots, call them taproot, whatever you want. I learned this business and I didn't grow up in any kind of networking or direct sales. I learned the guys I worked with were old Amway guys, and I learned a lot of really good stuff from them, really good stuff. Or they're Primera guys. And I learned a lot of really good stuff from both of them. I mean, some principles that to this day I use. But what they used to tell me, both of them, both strategies, both philosophies, the thing that I used to hear all the time was people will follow people that have the smoke of battle on them if they're still going. And I think, when you grow that big, there's some folks take the foot off the gas and get enough people to know the smoke of battle on them, then you become a hypocrite. You know what I mean? Hey, I'm your personal trainer. I don't work out and I don't eat well, but I'm going to tell you what to do. It's nah, I don't think that's going to work for me. You know what I mean? I'm your marriage counselor. Are you married? No, that's not going to work for me. Am I qualified to talk to you about your sobriety? Yes, I've been sober 23 years and I have a significant problem with drugs and alcohol. So I think I missed that one. And times were good, man. And it wasn't the money. It was just, there was so much success that I forgot the things those guys had taught me early on. I missed it.
That is so interesting that is amazing. I love that that's what stands out, because it does illustrate that us internally at corporate, but also in the field, we can become casualties of our own 100%. Success. And at times probably believing, some of the hype. And, I have had, and I'm sure anybody listening has had dreams of saying exactly what you said on that phone call. We've all been sitting there going, man, just work. How do I help that person work? I don't want to hear it unless they're out there performing. But that is one of the big challenges of managing an independent marketing organization or sales organization, is when they found success, keeping them engaged, keeping them motivated, keeping them training and sharing and selling. That is one of the biggest challenges that we have. I also love the analogy. People like to follow people who have you said the smoke of battle on them. Is that the right? I think smoke that's pretty incredible. I love that. So I know that you've been an incredible champion in multiple points in your career for person-to-person commerce. I'm curious what you see as the future of the model and what excites you the most.
Man, there's just so much opportunity, right? Like you kind of mentioned DTC, what I think has happened too, at least in my space and others that I'm aware of that I was in, or I know people in, there's such a need for what we do, right? We move product. There's amazing product. We move product. It's who we are. It's what we do. When you look at the way our sales are done, we were struggling, and I wish COVID never happened. I wish nobody ever got sick. I want everybody to be okay. I don't wish anything bad on people that are doing good out there. I want everybody to be okay. But COVID redefined the entire landscape of the way we sell, because literally we were an organization face to face trying to find a way to navigate leads nationally. Like you had to get a plane ticket, get a hotel room, get a rent-a-car, and go see people. Now, with how normalized everything being virtual is, doctor's appointments, personal training, school, even if we're not doing it day to day now. We've all done it. We can all do it. I think what we're doing, I think the lid came off it because the leads are everywhere. It doesn't matter who you are, where you are. While I love doing face-to-face opportunity meetings, I do like getting on a webinar and getting a lot of people all over the country. I love doing it hour after hour. I can't do that when I'm in my car driving 4 hours to somebody's house. Also, you look at social media, and that's what's been a big deal for us. Our average agent's pretty young. They're barely 30. We cumulatively have millions and millions and millions of followers, legitimate followers on social media. And we've learned the marketing and lead gen from there. And that is the future. I mean, the lead gen for your product, lead gen for your recruiting, because there's really not a lot of cost with it. It's work. It's activity. But when I see what's going to happen and how many people are going to need a second job or a new job. And, when I grew up, everybody went to college. That's what you did. And people frowned on what we're talking about here when I was young. Not anymore. They just don't. This generation is different. They are embracing it. They are excited. They want to be independent. They want to make a difference. My average agent isn't 30. I know. We have thousands and thousands of them. So I think, tapping into some of those folks as well and taking this thing to the next level is, I think the sky's truly the limit if we can embrace the social media marketing end of it, and the way we can sell and recruit virtually. Means it doesn't matter if you are a stay-at-home mom. Doesn't matter if you got some condition where you can't get out the house. It like literally this industry now, an opportunity does not discriminate. As long as you get on the phone, as long as you got a computer, man, you can build something from where you are.
I love that perspective and that vision that you have for the channel. I share your same excitement. We are perfectly positioned. We've been doing this for 100 years. People are looking for that extra income. This generation, as you mentioned, we are all so used to people sharing products or information or services online, friends, families, and followers. We do it every day. And we just need to make sure that we're at that intersection and continue to be so. Shawn, I want to thank you so much for your time. You definitely have the smoke of battle. This has been an incredible run, growing to 750 and on to 1 billion. And we've all learned so much from you, from this podcast. I'm going to go back and listen. Also, we get the chance to learn more from you at DSU, April 2nd through 4th in Dallas. Can't wait to hear what you have to share. So make sure if you're listening, go to dsnevents.com, register to see Shawn and many other thought leaders there. Shawn, congrats on all your success. Thanks for being such a great champion of the person-to-person model. And we look forward to continuing to follow your success.
Thank you for having me, man. You are unbelievable at what you do. I wish I could be as good at interviewing as you are. So congrats on yours, and thanks. I'm looking forward to the event, and I'm honored to be part of it.
Thanks. Look forward to seeing you there.
Thank you for tuning in. Please take a minute to give a 5-star rating and review to help Direct Approach continue to provide more candid interviews and insights for corporate executives. And please register you and your team now for the Spring 20th Anniversary Celebration events taking place April 2nd through April 4th in Irving, Texas. You can register at dsnevents.com. Thank you for listening and supporting DSN and the Direct Approach podcast.